Hey everyone, for TRICHOMES.com, I'm Ashley Manning, and this is Careers in Cannabis. On this show, we sit down with staffing agencies, cannabis companies, and other industry professionals to discuss employment opportunities in the burgeoning cannabis industry. Right now is everyone's chance to enter the young cannabis industry, and there are certainly plenty of options from entry level to C-suite executives. No matter where you work now, most likely you already have the skill sets that can apply to a career in cannabis. So, if you've been thinking about a career change or a more exciting career, then this is the episode for you. On this episode, we talk with Paul Rawlings, the Regional HR Manager for Acreage Holdings. Acreage brands span across 13 states. They have over 30 operational dispensaries and have launched 5 brands. They're currently looking for energetic and motivated people who share the Acreage Vision to join their team. Hey, Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashley. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thank you.
I know we formerly had Colleen Finn on last year to discuss some open opportunities in the cannabis industry. So I'm excited to visit 2021 and see where Acreage is at and the growth and some current career opportunities for our listeners today.
Yeah, well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. Yeah, Colleen, she left some pretty big shoes to fill on this podcast. So hopefully I'll do my best for you.
She was actually, if it makes you feel better, she was my first interview.
Oh, wow. I had no idea. I listened to that. You did a wonderful job.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited to have you here. So let's kind of recap a little bit for those who may have missed the previous episode. Tell us a little bit about Acreage.
Yeah. So Acreage Holdings, we are a multi-state operator in the cannabis space. We got our start in somewhere around 2011, mostly as an investment vehicle, providing funds for those who are looking to start up new licenses. In around, I think it was 2017, we transitioned to owning and operating our own licenses. And now, fast forward to 2021, as you said, we're a publicly traded company with a presence in several different states, both medical and adult use. We have obviously our flagship brand, The Botanist, but then through an agreement with Canopy Growth, as I'm sure everyone's aware of over in Canada, we're able to bring their brand, Tweed, to the US market, which we're very excited about.
Yes, I've heard several things about Tweed and The Botanist. I'm originally from the East Coast, so I'm naturally drawn to the East Coast brands that are coming out there and seeing them grow as well. And no doubt that Acreage is going to just take off from where you are. You guys really got in on the ground floor and are expanding very fast. So that's why we're here today to talk, because you have plenty of roles to be fulfilled as you guys grow. So I did notice on the website, Acreage has a vision. What is the Acreage Vision?
That's a great question. The Acreage Vision is to provide medicine from this wonderful plant that we call cannabis to as many patients as possible. And then obviously as we expand into adult use states, provide product to the people there who need it as well. Adult use is purposely defined as adult use because just because the state has passed adult use legislation doesn't mean there aren't people who still need this product for whatever medical ailments they may have. So again, to provide that high quality product to people in both those medical and adult use states.
And I think there are plenty of candidates who also want to help with that mission and vision as well. So that's another reason why we're here today. Is get more people in to help spread this message.
Yeah, so it's a feel good type of industry, right? You get to spend your whole entire day being a part of something that's helping people in a very real way, and it I don't know, it makes me feel good.
Makes me feel good all the way around as a working in it as well as personally. So why should someone consider getting into the cannabis industry right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So cannabis, it's a newer industry, newer purposely, not saying new, but it isn't going anywhere, right? It's changing with the regulation that we see at the state level, and we're obviously hoping it'll open doors to changing the regulation at the federal level as well. And I firmly believe that we stand at the precipice of some explosive growth within the industry. I think I was looking at a map the other day. I think there's only 2 states that don't have any sort of cannabis legislation, positive cannabis legislation on the books. So we're sort of reaching critical mass, and I see, that newness aside, there's always something to learn in the space. Whether it be new product being introduced to the market, like THC infused beverages, to the chemistry that goes into extraction, the understanding of biology that's required to operate a cultivation facility. It's the perfect industry for people who are lifelong learners, and it's always changing too. Each state is regulated so differently, and I fully anticipate that should we be so fortunate enough to reach any sort of changes at the federal level, that there'll be a whole new space to learn, a whole new regulation to learn, should that ever happen. Should we be so lucky?
Absolutely. Well, I go back and forth on, which direction it's going to go. I think it's still premature for us to even get that crystal ball out. But
yeah,
regardless,
no, it's definitely too premature to get that crystal ball out. But, nothing ever popped the balloon of hope.
For sure. But regardless of wherever cannabis is going or where people think it's going, it's time now to get into the industry.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's about to be very, very competitive.
Absolutely.
Very soon, if it already has.
It's already a very competitive space, but that's also what makes it exciting, because each company is bringing their own unique perspective on cannabis. I happen to believe that our perspective is the best perspective, but I have a little bit of skin in the game from that perspective. But it's a great time to join the industry. I mean, it's growing. Each new state. I was just looking at the other day. I think Connecticut also has an adult use initiative on the ballot. So the space is just going to continue to grow. It's just going to continue to create more opportunities for more people to move in. And as the space grows, the multi-state operators like Acreage in the space are only going to have just that many more opportunities to be able to offer to both external candidates and both internal candidates. We're very lucky to be in a position where we can consistently promote people up from within. I just got done processing an offer right before we started recording for an internal candidate promotion. So very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And that sometimes, we've talked about growth on previous episodes, and sometimes people, have started out in an entry level position. Next thing you know, in 5 months on the long end, they're promoted to manager and so on. So do you think it's about just showing up and doing good and showing that you have that hard work and passion behind you?
Yeah. I mean, I think the basics of being an employee certainly come into play, showing up on time, doing tasks that are being delegated to you to the best of your ability. But then there's also, some of those soft skills that come into play, somebody who's able to keep their head on a swivel and identify opportunities to take on small little projects that will, that will benefit their coworkers, whether it be, helping to straighten up the break room, or saying, hey, I think there's an opportunity for us to, tweak our cash close procedure in our dispensary, or say, hey, if we just make this small little tweak to the way that we are running our extraction facility, it would save us from having to do a whole entire 360 spin, and I can just grab one thing and set it down right next to me. So all of those different little things that, only people who are doing the jobs would see. All of that type of feedback is only going to help to elevate you as an employee to those who sit above you, who are looking for people who are passionate about the industry and want to grow from within.
Yeah. Take initiative.
Exactly,
for sure.
Exactly.
In terms of applicants, are you noticing more applicants who have cannabis experience, or has it shifted now to more people who don't have cannabis experience? What's the ratio right now of people applying?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we're sort of at an interesting time in the cannabis space, because the industry is still newer, but it's been around for a little while. In some of these states, there's been cannabis presidents for years at this point. So in some states, we are seeing people who have cannabis experience. In other states, we're seeing people who are leveraging some other black market experience and want to, finally bring it to the regulated market. But then also, it's a new industry. If you're looking around for somebody who's got, 10, 15 years of experience in the cannabis industry, you're not going to find it. It just doesn't exist. The industry hasn't been around that long. So to answer your question, yeah, I mean, yes, we are seeing people out on the market who do have cannabis experience. But there's also people who don't have cannabis experience, and that's totally fine. You know, some of the best people that I've been lucky enough to be able to hire have come from other industries. I mean, there was an extraction manager who I was lucky enough to recruit from the oil and gas industry. He was working extracting ethanol out of corn, actually, and he came in and he took it to it was like a duck to water. He did a great job, and he actually, we've just moved into a different facility within our portfolio. We had the right position for him. So, you know, there's always an opportunity for people to join the industry. And just because you're sitting there thinking to yourself, yeah, I don't know, cannabis, those are the type of people who, you know, I love to engage and share my own story, share stories that I've been, you know, in HR, we have the opportunity to interview so many different people. And we get to hear all of their different stories and how cannabis has impacted their lives, the lives of their loved ones. There's a story that I love to share where there was a gentleman who we were hiring for, or I'm getting goosebumps if I'm touching my arm here. But we were hiring for a dispensary manager in one of our states. And he told me about how his grandmother, she had terminal cancer and she was essentially given 3 months left to live. And they basically told her, we can make her comfortable, but that's pretty much about it. But making her comfortable meant opioids, meant being on a whole cocktail of drugs. And there was no guarantee that it would last for a long time. And for her, she always loved ice cream. She actually owned an ice cream parlor in her youth. And so they made the choice to put her into hospice and take her off of all of her medication. And they were able to put her on cannabis. And, you know, one of the side effects of cannabis is it increases your appetite. So for the first time through her whole entire bout with cancer, as it started to get really bad, she was able to sit up and have ice cream for the first time with her family. And that was just a lovely memory that her loved ones are going to be able to carry with them for the rest of their lives, of her final moments. It didn't extend her life. It didn't heal her, but it made the quality of that time that they had with her just that much more impactful. And those are the stories that I love to share. And those are the stories that I love to hear about. And those are the stories that people who are in the industry are blessed enough to get to able to hear and get to able to gift to the people who are walking into our doors, you know, the patients who are coming in and are looking for cannabis.
Incredible story. Definitely those are the ones that need to be shared. And I think those who have been touched by cannabis personally, whether it be through themselves or someone else, that their passion behind the plant and working in the industry really, really, really shines. And it's amazing to see that transformation because how long have we been stigmatized that this is a drug, and here we are watching it work right in front of us.
I mean, that stigma goes back.
And that's incredible.
Oh God, years. I mean, you can go all the way back to, you know, the early 1900s when that first started with reefer madness. And now here we are talking about federal legalization. My, how the tides have turned on that one, huh? But to answer your, going back to the original question, you know, are we noticing applicants who have cannabis experience? Yes, there's definitely, you know, an influx of candidates who have cannabis experience, you know, both from regulated markets and the black market. But that doesn't mean that just because you don't have cannabis experience, you can't contribute to the industry. You know, there's a space for everybody. We just got to find the right spot for you.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of those opportunities. And if you are listening right now or watching, you know, and you don't work in the cannabis industry, think about what you're currently doing as you hear these positions that Paul's talking about, because take cannabis out of it and apply those skills to what Paul is going to be offering. So please, Paul, pick out the first opportunity you want to share with us that Acreage has.
Yeah. So the first one I wanted to mention was we have a sales manager opening over in our Massachusetts market. We're in the process of getting a production and cultivation facility up and running out there. They're already running. They already got product on the market, but we're expanding the inventory and the SKUs that we're bringing to market. I worked in sales for a long time, and one of the hardest part in sales is figuring out a reason to call your customer. And the great thing about this opportunity is we're doing a lot of the work for whoever's stepping into this role. We're putting new SKUs on the market, so you're gonna have tons of reasons to call the dispensaries in the state of Massachusetts, offer up our product to them. We got a bunch of really great product that we're putting online that we can't talk about yet. But join us; you'll find about all about it. We also have a kitchen manager that we're hiring over there. Scaling recipes, infusing products. You can't really taste the THC. Figuring out a way to R&D some innovative product to market, especially in the kitchen and confectionery space. We're always looking for new and interesting flavors that are going to pique a customer's interests. Massachusetts is actually a market where we're vertically integrated. So we're uniquely positioned to be able to leverage the data coming out of our own dispensaries for both the sales manager and the kitchen manager who join us. So those are two positions out in Massachusetts. Illinois, another state where we're vertically integrated. We're hiring a bunch out there actually, but two positions I wanted to highlight was in our marketing department. We have both a marketing specialist and a marketing coordinator. One of them is based out of Freeport, Illinois, which is where our grow and cultivation facility is out there. And the other one is supporting our two dispensaries, one in Rolling Meadows and the other one over in the West Loop area of Chicago. And again, it's, helping to, work alongside the marketing, the sales team to help create the collateral that they need to be able to, appeal to our dispensaries. And then on the retail side, creating events and innovative outreach opportunities for our patients and new customers to get to know us. When you're in the cannabis space, oftentimes there's regulations around what you can and can't do from marketing. I think it's an interesting problem. It's a fun Gordian knot that you get to sort of pick apart and find a path through. Great opportunities for people who love challenges and want to take their marketing know-how and apply it to a new and burgeoning industry over in Illinois. We're actually expanding our cultivation facility out there. So again, there's going to be tons of reasons for people to engage us out in Illinois. We got tons of new product that we're bringing to market, both for the botanist and for Tweed. So it'll be a really exciting opportunity out there. And then the last one I wanted to mention is we are looking for an extraction manager over in the great state of New York. Extraction manager is going to be working, I do believe, with CO2 extraction out there. So going back to the gentleman I mentioned earlier who was over in oil and gas and was looking to transition into the cannabis industry, it's a great opportunity for somebody who wants to step into that space. Extraction's a fun piece of the industry because there's so much chemistry that goes into that. I love talking to extraction managers and learning about how they got into the industry. They always have a fun path. So yeah, those are I kind of went over my 3 to 4 slots there, but those are some positions that we're hiring in the across the country.
Awesome. I have a few questions on the marketing specialist. In terms of, the regulatory hurdles in cannabis, would that particular position need to know that, or would that come from more of the director of marketing or chief marketing officer?
That's a great question. So in regards to some of the hurdles around marketing, in Illinois, we have a marketing team that works very closely with our corporate marketing team to make sure that anything that's being put out there is compliant. We also have a compliance counterpart that's on site as well that can work with whoever's stepping into this role to be able to make sure whatever there is that they're creating is going to be compliant. And ultimately, at the end of the day, whoever steps into the role isn't going to be thrown to the wolves, isn't going to be a good luck, the water's 12 feet deep and you got a 20-pound weight. It's not going to be that type of situation. Whoever steps into that role is going to have plenty of support. You're not on a rock, you're not on an island. There's support at the entity level, there's support at the state level, and there's support at the corporate level. So anybody who steps into that role, there's going to be probably more people who will give you an answer than the questions that you have, whoever's stepping into that role.
And are those two marketing roles, are they remote?
No, they're going to be based out of the facility. So the specialist will be based out of the our what is that place called? Our cultivation facility over in Freeport. Sorry, I had a little bit of a brain slowdown there. And then the coordinator would be based out of one of either our Rolling Meadows facility or our Chicago facility.
Okay, awesome. And in terms of the extraction, can you name some? I'm putting my hat on if I was applying, and worked in extraction, what would be some other outside of oil and gas that could potentially parlay into cannabis extraction?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Oil?
Obviously, oil and gas, we already talked about that. Also looking at, you're putting me on the spot, Ashley. I'm gonna have to think about that for a second.
Essential oils, botanicals.
Essential oils,
maybe?
botanicals. Yeah, that could be another opportunity. We have hired people out of labs, sort of like a medical testing facility, especially if you're looking at somebody who's coming out of, not to get morbid, but blood testing. Oftentimes, you're putting some of the blood through some pseudo extraction processes to remove the different components of that. There's obviously a testing component to it as well. Any product that is made is sent out for some pretty rigorous testing, both locally and at the state level. So they would have a familiarity with that. Those would be sort of like the places to look at. Also, if you're an extraction tech in another facility, or if you're an extraction lead or supervisor in another facility and would be interested in that extraction manager role, by all means reach out. We're, being a new industry, we've obviously had to use a fair amount of professional creativity and figuring out how people are going to fit into the roles that we're currently recruiting for. And I think, again, looking at cannabis as a new industry, you're not going to find people who have experience in the cannabis industry in some of these spaces. So we have to get creative in looking at how can we parlay current skill sets into the skill set that we're looking to hire for.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So let's shift gears into take off your recruiting hat for a moment. It's one of my favorite questions that I ask all my guests because I believe that this industry is very relationship oriented and everybody cares about one another. And to me, it doesn't seem like people are out for themselves. I mean, we all have that in any industry, but it seems much more like a connected community in the industry. So one of my questions that I'd love to ask you is what's some big brother advice you would give someone who may be on the fence about having a career in cannabis?
Great question. Ironically, my younger brother just got a job in the cannabis industry as well. So
Did you hire him?
No, unfortunately I did not.
Or you're not allowed to say.
We didn't have the right job for him. So, oftentimes talking with people who are hesitant about entering into the cannabis industry, they conjure up these images of the early days of the cannabis industry, trash bags full of cash and, raids of dispensaries happening. That's not the environment anymore. That's not, you can't have, so many states with state regulation and those types of things still happening. So, it's what we're seeing now is that the cannabis industry is offering all of the things that you would expect out of any job, all of the things that you would expect, everything from benefits to 401k to, basic things like direct deposit. We have expense accounts. We have everything that you could possibly imagine. And I think, going back to an earlier comment I made about being a lifelong learner, one of the things that really took me aback shortly after I started this job was, just researching what makes a good extraction manager. I don't know. What makes a good cultivation manager? I don't know. And just in having those conversations with them, it's always blown me away how much, biology and chemistry and just all of those classes that you took in high school that you thought to yourself, I'm never going to need to use this ever again. All of that information all of a sudden becomes extremely relevant in the cannabis space. And so it's, for those people who feel like they're stuck on the sidelines, or for those people who feel like they don't have a place in the cannabis industry, I would encourage them to reach out and take a good, hard, long look at, is there not a space for you, or have we just not found the right opportunity yet?
Very, very good insight there. It's about finding that right opportunity. Well, my last question for you today is, how can you be reached, or how can our listeners apply for some of these positions that you've mentioned? Yeah,
so I would encourage listeners to go to our website, acreageholdings.com. You can go ahead and you can click on the careers page. All of the roles that I talked about are all listed there on that website. There's also a bunch of additional fun jobs that I haven't talked about. Everything from cultivation technicians to people working in our dispensaries to a few corporate jobs as well. For those who don't necessarily, are listening to me talk about extraction or getting bored, they can go look at some of those other opportunities as well. And then you can also reach out to us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Oh, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Paul. And thank you, Acreage, for sharing you with me today. And I look forward to having you back to talk about even more growth, because I believe Acreage is in 30 states. I believe
13 states. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's a growing
13.
industry, pun intended.
Yes. And I anticipate you guys being in all 50 states very soon. We just have to get these other states on board and get their
there's a few stragglers but we'll get there.
Well,
Awesome.
Thank you so much for your time, Paul, and I look
Likewise,
forward to having
Ashley.
you back. Hey, thanks for watching our channel. Click here to watch another episode of Careers in Cannabis and more great shows and interviews. To find more cannabis industry reporting, insider stories, and to stay up to date on the latest trends, make sure you subscribe and keep up to date with the TRICHOMES community app. Download it now and we'll see you there.